Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. In this episode, we are going to talk about the latest news on the US debt ceiling crisis and what it means for the economy and the people. As you may know, the US government has a legal limit on how much it can borrow to pay its bills. This limit is called the debt ceiling and it currently stands at $31.4 trillion. But the government has already reached that limit and is using extraordinary measures to avoid defaulting on its obligations. If the government does not raise this limit by a certain deadline, it will run out of cash and default on its obligations. This could have catastrophic consequences for the global financial system, as well as for millions of Americans who rely on government services and benefits. The deadline to raise the debt ceiling was June 5, according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. However, for months, the White House and Congress were locked in a stalemate over how to do it. The Democrats, who control the Senate and the White House, wanted to raise the debt ceiling without any conditions. The Republicans, who control the House of Representatives, wanted to use the debt ceiling as leverage to extract policy concessions from President Biden. The Republicans demanded that Biden agree to cut spending on social programs, increase work requirements for food stamp recipients, reduce funding for the IRS, and speed up energy projects. They also opposed Biden's plans to raise taxes on corporations and the wealthy to pay for his ambitious infrastructure and social spending proposals. Biden refused to negotiate with the Republicans over the debt ceiling, arguing that it was a matter of national security and economic stability. He accused them of playing political games with the full faith and credit of the United States. He also said that raising the debt ceiling was not about authorizing new spending, but about paying for what Congress had already approved. After weeks of tense negotiations and public pressure, a breakthrough finally came on May 27, when Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy reached an agreement in principle to avoid a default and raise the debt ceiling to the power of 5. The deal followed a 90-minute phone call between the two leaders. The deal, formally named the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, would suspend the debt ceiling until 2025, allowing the government to borrow money without any limit until well after the next presidential election. This would avoid another debt ceiling crisis in the near future and give some certainty and stability to the markets and the public. In addition to suspending the debt ceiling, the deal also includes some spending cuts and reforms that were demanded by McCarthy and his Republican colleagues. These include returning about $30 billion of unspent COVID relief funds to reduce the deficit, keeping non-defense spending flat next year, with a 1% rise in 2025. Increasing defense spending by about 3% to $886 billion. Raising the age at which work requirements are applied for food assistance recipients from 50 to 54. Providing $80 billion over 10 years to help the IRS enforce tax rules on wealthy Americans. It would also increase the Pentagon's budget and add new restrictions on receiving food benefits, while diverting some funds from the IRS and streamlining licensing for energy projects to the power of 5. The deal would not affect Biden's infrastructure and social spending plans, which he hopes to pass through a separate process that does not require Republican support. The deal represents a compromise between both parties, which means that not everyone is happy with it. Some Democrats criticized Biden for giving in to some of the Republican demands, especially on food stamps and IRS funding. Some Republicans criticized McCarthy for agreeing to raise the debt ceiling without more significant spending cuts or policy changes. The deal still has to be approved by both chambers of Congress before it becomes law. The House is expected to vote on it as early as next Wednesday to the power of 5. The Senate will also have to pass it with at least 10 Republican votes to overcome a filibuster. Both leaders expressed confidence that they have enough support to pass the deal. Biden urged both chambers to pass the agreement right away, saying that it was worthy of the American people to the power of 5. He also said that the agreement represents a compromise, which means not everyone gets what they want, to the power of 5. So what does this mean for you? Well, if Congress passes the deal and avoids a default, it means that you can breathe a sigh of relief. The government will be able to continue paying its bills and providing essential services. The economy will be spared from a major shock that could trigger a recession or worse. The U.S. will maintain its reputation as a reliable borrower and keep its credit rating intact. However, if Congress fails to pass the deal and defaults on its debt, It means that you could face serious consequences. The government could stop paying Social Security benefits, Medicare reimbursements, military salaries, interest on bonds, and other obligations. The stock market could plummet, interest rates could spike, inflation could soar, and consumer confidence could collapse. The U.S. could lose its status as a global reserve currency and face legal challenges from its creditors. The bottom line is that this deal is not a permanent solution to the debt ceiling problem. It is only a temporary fix that postpones the issue for another 2 years. In 2025, when the suspension expires, the U.S. will face another potential crisis unless Congress finds a way to reform or abolish the debt ceiling altogether. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this topic and others. See you next time.